Molo Sambonani, hello, how's it? Good morning, good morning, good morning, and good day. Welcome to the Vuka Nazo Show. My name, of course, is Usihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty. And remember, as you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, hit that like button and please subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I know we've reached the 41,900 mark, and it's looking pretty good in that regard. A quick reminder that also we have a website. Find us at bigdaddyliberty.com. Now, enough with the jibber jabber. Let's get straight into the news. All right, the diplomatic row and fallout between South Africa and the United States of America continues to brew and indeed to bubble over. This after, you'll remember the remarks by the US ambassador to South Africa, Ruben Brickety, speaking, of course, in a media conference, basically saying and accusing South Africa of having armed the Russians when that Russian frigate, you'll remember, docked in Simonstown. Now, don't take it from me. Let's hear what Ruben Brickety himself had to say.
Arming of Russia by South Africa with the vessel that landed in Simonstown is fundamentally unacceptable. We are confident that weapons were loaded onto that vessel, and I would bet my life on the accuracy of that assertion. Given that, the deviation from South Africa's policy of non-alignment by the actions of December 6th through December 8th are inexplicable.
Yeah, that's right. The man even saying he could stake his life to that particular claim. It caused not only a big diplomatic row, but also eyebrows were raised within the opposition party politics, and indeed South Africans beginning to ask the question just exactly what the South African government is up to. Are we arming a Russia right now, which is embarked, as you'll know, on a military campaign against the Ukraine? If that is the case, if South Africa was passing arms on, which, by the way, you must remember, Russia has been sanctioned by the international community, and those sanctions include, of course, not giving the Russians arms in this particular moment. If South Africa is accused of this and evidence is found, it will mean very serious consequences for South Africa, which may even include South Africa finding itself being sanctioned by not only the United States, but the international community. There are very high stakes being played in this particular diplomatic row between these two countries. I must remind you that, of course, trade between the United States and America is effectively the 39th largest goods trading happens for America between it and South Africa to the value of about $13.2 billion. That is money which our economy finds to be an absolute lifeline. So as I said, big stakes involved in this. Now, as I mentioned, the opposition parties were very quick to capitalize on this particular issue and question the South African government via the President of the Republic as to these allegations. Here is an exchange in Parliament between the leader of the opposition and the leader of the Democratic Alliance, John Steenhuisen, asking the President of the Republic, hey man, here are these allegations, is any of it true? This was the President's response.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Whilst Mr. Steenhuisen puffs off his anger and is performing, I wanted to say, Ms. Honorable Steenhuisen, Simonstown, it's not what you call your government's Simonstown. It is South Africa's. It belongs to the people of South Africa. No, I wanted to correct you. And I want you to be patriotic and regard installations as important as those as belonging to the people of South Africa. So I want you not to be derisive. and I don't want you also to be as insulting as you are about things and installations such as those. It belongs to the people of South Africa. Having said that, we are all aware of the news that we all became aware of the Lady R, and that whole matter, Honorable Steenhuisen, is being looked into. No, it isn't. It's being looked into. And whilst the process continues, I want you to allow that process to continue to reach its fruition. I know that you are so keen. You are so keen and you are so interested in knowing exactly what happened. The matter, yes, the matter is being looked into, and in time we'll be able to speak about it. Yes, in time we'll talk about it. So, Honorable Speaker, as you correctly said, this matter best be left where it is, and then the answer is that the matter is being looked into.
There you have it, a wishy-washy response by the president, effectively saying, as they always do, we'll set up a committee to look into it. A retired judge in this particular instance to commission of inquiry his way out of directly answering this question of whether the South African government sold weapons or handed over weapons to the Russians or not. And you've got to understand the nervousness with which the ANC seemingly has around this issue. Just look at how the Speaker of Parliament, before the president answered this question, basically interjected rather nervously and coached the president, saying, hey man, you basically don't have to answer this question. They're very nervous about this, and it reeks of something fishy being abound. Watch this.
The matter, and let me say,
Honorable Mr. President,
yes,
I'm really sorry. You have a choice whether to respond to this question or not. Honorable members, order, because this is a new question. It is.
Yeah, you heard it. There is a very nervous energy with the ANC at the moment. And as I predictably said yesterday, they will now then respond with absolute bluster in order to detract and to not look as fishy and guilty as they are. The latest on this one, of course, being that the ambassador, the US ambassador to South Africa, Ruben Brigety, has been summoned by the South African government to appear before them. It's almost a diplomatic way of reprimanding an ambassador. It's a process called démarcher, a French word, of course, which is a diplomatic summons and a protest of a foreign representative in the country. Let me read this News 24 piece, which gave the latest on this. Now, the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, DIRCO, has announced that political steps have been taken to effectively reprimand the US ambassador to South Africa for not following proper diplomatic channels to express his country's concerns over arms allegedly being sent to Russia from South Africa. Communicating this, DIRCO spokesperson Uclayson Monyela said, quote, DIRCO will today démarcher the US ambassador to South Africa following his remarks yesterday or last week in this particular instance. Will issue a detailed statement after the meeting, end of quote. Now again, as I said, as I end this here, there is going to be a lot of tension on this issue, but you've got to understand something. The nonsense of the South African government, trying to waste time and buy itself time, and the bluster in this instance may work on South Africans who continue to support this government, who continue to support the ANC, but it won't work on Americans. Americans understand that there is a high stakes game being played here with South Africa under the ANC ever increasingly rejecting and slowly moving away from its historical relationship of the South Africans to the West, if you will, and cozying up ever increasingly to the alliance of BRICS nations, Brazil, India, China, and of course, Russia. This will be of major concern, of course, to Americans who are watching South Africans slip into this particular access, if you will, and maybe wondering what this means for future relations between the US and South Africa. We'll keep an eye on this particular story, and you can imagine that the Americans are making a lot of this noise as they are, given the upcoming BRICS summit, which will be held in South Africa. Massive diplomatic tensions here, and the ANC ought to tread very, very carefully. All right, that's it for this episode of Vuka Nazo. Make sure you keep an eye out for more content in the day. Let me know what you think, of course, about this particular story. Leave a comment whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. And if it is YouTube in particular, subscribe. Hit that bell notification. And of course, help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Guys, you can support the work that we're doing here financially by going to our website. Find us at bigdaddyliberty.com. There you'll find a payment method that suits you. With that being said, enjoy your day, and I'll see you on another episode of the Vuka Nazo Show.